everybody, what's going on? Duke Baxter, Steve Nicorak, Inside Zone Sports Academy, getting ready to have some fun today. We're going to have some fun. We're going to talk about some umpiring. We're going to talk about coaching. We're going to talk about our post-weekend recap, some of the things that we've seen at all different age levels, different age groups. We got some hot topics. Coach Steve, you excited for today?
Oh, yeah. I know Duke's got a crazy story to tell you guys from this past weekend. We start up with our older guys tomorrow, which is exciting. Our first 16U practice, 16 and 17U practice. They just finished up high school ball, so we get together again for the first time. Looking forward to the summer. It's starting up in 2 weeks, so a lot of good things on our end, and happy and excited to hear from you guys on how your weekend went. Any questions or concerns, feel free to ask. That's what drives the content on this show, and we're here to help in any way we can.
We wanted to let you know that today's sponsor is Zone Sports Academy. Zone Sports Academy is a 28,000 square foot indoor baseball and softball training facility. We help coaches, we help leagues, we help players of all ages and skill levels. They come down, we do private lessons, we do group trainings, we do league revitalizations. We just went last month, we went to a Little League, and we actually work with all their coaches, we work with all their players, really trying to help rebuild the sport of baseball and softball. So if you have a chance to come on down, Zone Sports Academy in Bridgewater, New Jersey, come check us out. We'll be excited to see you. So make sure in the comments that, like Coach Steve said, what are some things that you struggled with this weekend, or things that you saw, or things that you'd like to get better at? Also, where are you watching from? What state? What country? What level are you coaching? Are you coaching 10U, 9U, T-ball? And what level coach are you? Are you a first-time coach? Are you a seasoned coach, veteran coach? We love to hear from you, because that's what's going to give us some ideas, and we love answering those questions right on the spot, especially after a weekend when everything is fresh in our mind. So where do you want to start?
I think you got to start with your story. Duke ran into a situation this weekend that is probably going to blow your minds, and it's something that we covered a little bit last week in regards to player-umpire relationships, coach-umpire relationships. So I'll pass it on to Duke and let him share what he went through.
So get a phone call, our 13U team is playing, and the parent's like, "You're not going to believe what's going on here." And I was like, what in the world is he going to say? He's like, "A parent just punched the umpire right in the face." So let's backstep a little bit. So this is what happened. There was a coach, actually it was a dad, that was coaching first base for this organization. And I guess there was some time in between games, and the parent had a couple cold ones, and he's now coaching first base. There was a situation, a call, that maybe this parent thought that there was a balk, and the umpire didn't call it, so he was getting razzed by pretty much the whole entire team was razzing him, and the umpire threw the coach, I'm going to call him because he was at first base, so he's a coach, and he threw him out of the game, and this guy came over and just whack, punched the umpire dead smack in his head. The umpire was 72 years old. We actually talked to the guy the next day. He has his jaw closed. He had some teeth loose. The cops came. It was like, couldn't believe what was going on. And we wonder why there's an umpire shortage, right? There's an umpire shortage all over. Guys are wondering, why aren't umpires, where are all the umpires? Well, when you hear of things like this, especially when it's this close to home and you're like, you hear these stories or you see social media, 5,000 miles down the road, but then all of a sudden one of your teams is involved in the other team that was playing against us, and our kids are like watching like, what is going on here? So one of our posts recently this weekend was, listen, youth sports are not rock concerts, meaning you shouldn't be going to a youth game to drink beer, to do all these things, to razz umpires, to bust the chops of the other. It's a youth game. These are youth sports. Go to the game, watch it, have fun. And for you coaches out there watching this, make sure you are aware of who you ask to coach first base, or who you ask to coach third base, or who's in your dugout. Where have they been? What have they been doing? Because you're not putting them around your athletes. So yeah, it was a dad, but once he steps at first base and he's on the field, he's now a coach, and he represents your team, your organization, and we have to be really careful. That can happen to anybody. That can happen to any team. But we have to make sure that we're keeping our eye on everything that's going on and, surrounding our kids with good people so that they can respect the game and they're doing the right thing. So it's...
Yeah, it's bad. I mean, we saw a post, last week or 2 weeks ago, there's a younger umpire. Same thing, he was getting heckled by the parents and just called the game. And he said, all right, we're done. And he was just over it. And I don't blame him because he's sitting there, volunteering his time it was a Little League game, to be a Little League umpire. And he's got parents sitting behind home plate riding him and screaming at him. And he said one more word and it's a forfeit. And of course the parent kept chirping and that was it. And the game was over. And I think the parent said, oh, I hope you're proud of yourself. And the kid turned to the dad and said, no, I hope you're proud of yourself. These kids are 8 and 9 years old and you're arguing with me. He's like a college kid home for the summer just trying to make a couple extra bucks umpiring. And I think parents and, not all parents, but a lot of people lose sight of the reason why the kids are there. And it's to develop relationships and become a better ball player. And, all the reasons why we grew up playing the game. It's like sometimes people just get so caught up in the moment. And I don't know if they're just so focused on winning or so focused on, their own kids' future making the major leagues. It's like they lose sight of the fact that it's a 13U kid, right? There's a bad call. There are so many bad calls at youth baseball and softball games. You can't even count them all. But take a step back, take a deep breath. I'm sure, at least I hope the guy regrets it, the day after. But it's just insane, and we're seeing way too much of it, and it's the reason why guys don't want to umpire anymore.
Yeah.
They don't want to be there, and there's a respectful way to argue calls. I've argued calls in the past, but before ground rules, I go out, I shake the guy's hand, I get his name. So if there's a questionable call, I'll go out. I don't need the fans to hear me. The fans aren't there to see me coach. Just like the fans weren't there to see that guy coach. You go out, you call him by his first name, you talk quietly, nobody needs to hear it, and you get to the bottom of it. Respectfully ask, hey, I think, your partner might have had a better angle. Can you ask for help? More times than not, that guy's going to go to him and maybe reverse the call. But if not, move on. You're teaching these kids all the valuable life lessons that the game offers about being resilient, about battling through adversity, handling failure. What are you teaching those kids on your team by going and cold clocking the umpire? Absolutely nothing. I would have been so embarrassed to be the other coach on that team, or if I was a parent to see my kid play it's just horrible.
Yeah. Well, I know that the topic today was how to motivate our players, how to get kids excited, how to motivate them, how to run good practices so the kids stay engaged. Because a lot of times, as we know, they call it a boring sport, but yet I think that's for the people that don't really know what's going on, the inner workings of a baseball practice or a baseball game. Yeah, the balls only inflate for 8 minutes in a 2-hour game, which is crazy because you're like, holy cow, like 8 minutes, that's it, in 2 hours. But all the things that you're doing leading up to that, you're talking to your other position players, you're making sure that the dirt's nice and clean, you're watching the last pitch, you're anticipating it's going to be hit to you, you're wondering where the ball's going to go, you're reading this swing, there's so much stuff going on that even though the ball itself is only in the air, there's so much chess and checkers that are in a game of baseball and softball that, a lot of people just don't understand that part of it. So keeping the practices fun and engaging and turning them into competitions, make it so much more fun. So Coach Steve, you want to talk a little bit about, how important it is for us to, when we're in practice, to kind of make it more competition and game speed and all that stuff. How can the coaches, a lot of them are 11, 10, 9, 8, keeping them engaged and, all while getting developed?
Yeah, we've discussed this before, but I'm a big fan of creating short, simple stations to keep the kids moving. Practice can get boring if you show up every week and you take ground balls, you take fly balls, you take BP, and you go home. So find new and creative ways to teach the same skill set, but maybe make a competition out of it. Maybe you play defend the line, where you have two teams, trying to keep the ball in front and protect the line, and put maybe a penalty for the team that loses. Maybe they have to run a pole or do some push-ups. Instead of just playing catch or throwing the ball to first base, maybe you put them on a stopwatch, or you play target practice. In a throwing program, you play the points game where, they have a specific plan and a target when they're throwing. Batting practice, I do this all the time in BP, is, setting up targets throughout the cage. Maybe we set up a ball on a tee and we're working on driving the ball the other way. You get 10 points if you hit the back net. You get 5 points if you hit the L screen. But it's our job as coaches, 1, to show up with energy. 2, to have a plan so that when we get there, we're not all looking at each other like, all right, what should we do today? And we send the kids down the line to get warmed up, and before you know it, we're 20 minutes into practice and we're kind of going, on the fly. So we have to have energy, we have to be prepared, and then you have to create as many stations as possible to keep them moving, especially for some of you guys that are coaching 8, 9, 10 years old. They're going to lose focus just like this. So instead of just doing the traditional ground balls, fly balls, BP, create 3 different fielding stations. Maybe you've got a bare hand pick progression station, you've got the line drill, you've got a ground ball station. You do 3 8-minute stations, then you do 3 different variations of outfield work. You do batting practice, but when we do batting practice, we don't just have 1 kid hitting while 11 kids watch. We have 1 kid hitting, 1 kid doing side toss, one kid doing maybe mini wiffle balls, another guy standing and shadowing. So you create all these mini stations. You've got all these kids moving at once, and now practice isn't boring. And I can promise you this, I know it takes a little bit of time, but if you create a good practice plan, practice goes by like this. And for us, we have practice, we have the field utilization chart up here, just to kind of show you how we break down the field. But if you've got 12 guys, you got 4 guys doing a base running station, you got 4 guys doing an infield station, 4 guys doing an outfield station, and then the other group out in the batting cage is hitting. That's just a simple way of breaking down the field and utilizing all your space. But we've got our first practice tomorrow with 16U, and we have a meeting today just to go over, all right, well, we got 2 weeks until tournaments start. What has to be covered? And of course, we have a list like this. We can't cover it all at once, but we're gonna head into practice tomorrow with a plan. Every coach has a specific job. We're gonna delegate responsibility, and practice should be great. Yeah. But I think it's really taking the time. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. In all of our programs, we have our sample practice plans, like you can see right here, our field utilization chart. On our membership, we have over 15 sample practice plans. Our 8-week program, we have 8 consecutive weeks leading up to opening day on, how to best prepare your team for opening day. And we use that format right there. It shows you, the time column on the left, the activity, what coach is running which station, and then what area of the field you're using. So, you might only have 1 cage, you might not have a cage. That's okay, right? We just have to, have our coach's toolkit and go prepared and, do the best that you can do with the assistant coaches that you have, with the area that you have, to keep those kids moving and make sure you change it up from week to week. I can't express that enough. You got to keep practice, constantly moving, constantly changing. Don't get stale. Don't do the same drills over and over. That's where it becomes boring.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And we're gonna put the link below. You guys can download those for free. You just opt into the perfect practice, and you get the utilization chart. You get the lineup card. You get all that stuff. So that'll be awesome. Just click that link, and you can get those. Now, one of the other things that we were talking about, Steve and I, earlier today, was when we're talking about motivating players, keeping them engaged, what our job as coaches is to help our players motivate one another. Here's an example. So one of the pitchers this weekend, 11-year-old, was in the 3rd inning, started to struggle. Instead of me as a coach going out there and kind of settling him down, I talked to the catcher. I'm like, hey, Joey, go talk to Tyler and settle him down a little bit. So the catcher went out. All of a sudden, the pitcher started smiling. Who knows what they were talking about at 11 years old. But he came out and started just throwing strikes, and it kind of, set the tone and kind of ease that. You can have the shortstop do it. You can have the second base. You can have anybody on the field go do it. But we only get that visit once. The second visit, we have to take the pitcher out. So you really want to use your visits wisely and have the players learn how to help each other out. We were talking, Aaron Judge has something that he does that, if he takes a good swing, it's like he steps out, gets the sign, he gets right back in the batter's box, and he's ready to go. If he doesn't like something, he reaches down, grabs some dirt, and goes in between his fingers, kind of throws it away, and that's kind of like his reset button. So what you want to do is you want to have your players have a reset button, whatever that might be, and have each other know what that is so they can help each other out. Because that's a really important part of the game of baseball. When we talk about communication, man, everyone's so quiet. How come no one's talking? Well, the kids don't even know what to talk about. right? The kids they don't know what to talk about on the baseball field. The ball's hit, it's not hit, So we have to help them think. We have to have them think how many outs are there, where's the ball going to be thrown, who's on base, all those things. And they can say that every time. Hey, 2 outs, nobody's on, plays the first. Well, the whole team can say that. Now they're talking, there's a runner on first, and Coach Steve's playing second, and I'm playing short. Hey, Coach Steve, here we go, ground ball, I got you at second base. So that's just the shortstop talking to the second baseman. The second baseman might yell to the third baseman, hey, Mikey, let's go, and a ball hit to you. I got you at second. So they're just kind of talking back and forth, reminding each other of what's going on. Because how many times do you see at a youth game, ground ball hit to the third baseman, there's a runner on second, he doesn't check, he just takes it and fires it straight to first base. Or he gets ready to throw it to first and everyone's yelling, check 2. Now all of a sudden he pops his feet, he's looking around, and then he throws it to first and he whips it over the guy's head. But if the second baseman prior to that said, hey, Johnny, check 2, go 1, I got you at second base on a ground ball. Well, now it just kind of reminded him, and they're all reminding themselves. So as a coach, we have to communicate with our players on how to communicate to one another. I think that's really important.
Yeah, 100%. We've got a great question here from Facebook user. Catcher to pitcher throwback on a pass ball, 7 to 9-year-olds. And then you talked about struggling with first-time pitchers, trying to become more consistent with covering home plate on a throwback, from the backstop. So I think a great drill to do, you can have a group of pitchers standing on the mound. Maybe you have a group at third base, and then you have your 2 catchers behind home plate. So one catcher's in there, coach is pitching, and you're working on the catcher blocking, right? So the catcher is getting his blocking work in, and then anytime there's a pass ball, you have a handful of runners at third. So pass ball, the group that's on the pitcher's mound has to sprint home. So that catcher is working on getting back to the backstop, fielding it, either underhand tossing it, power flipping, or throwing it. That pitcher's covering. And then, if there's a rundown, you've got that player at third base yelling runner. Maybe they get the guy into a rundown. You can work on rundown. So, just in one station right there, you've got really 4 groups. You got catchers, you got pitchers, third baseman, and then you got a group working on base running, where they're working on dirt ball reads, trying to get a good jump on it. But you're working on blocking, you're working on covering the plate, you're working on base running and getting good reads on pass balls or balls that kick away, and then potentially working on rundown. So that's just one thing that comes to mind on, working on that skill set. And at 7 to 9 years old, you're going to see a lot of pass balls. So, I think the more stuff you can do with backing up bases and what position you have to be in, and where do I go if this situation happens, and really just ingraining in their head that baseball IQ, I think is key. But I would definitely set that station up at practice. Get the 4 stations going. 7 to 9-year-olds, I don't think there's anything wrong with having a lot of guys catch. Teaching everybody how to play the catcher's position. Because more times than not, the catcher is going to have to pitch at some point. So getting more kids acclimated to putting the gear on, getting back there, teaching them how to block properly, I think is only going to add more value and depth to the team.
I think something else to look for as well is what we do with our guys is we're always trying to take 2 bases on a pass ball. So at 11, when you're taking that good lead, boom, you see the ball go by the catcher, we're rounding second base hard, and we're thinking about actually getting to third. And one of the things that we look for is if the pitcher, when the catcher goes to the backstop, if the pitcher stands on the mound, we have the guy take off running as soon as he throws. Because as soon as the catcher who's back behind home plate throws the ball all the way to the pitcher then gets it, turns and fires, he's going to be safe. So as a pitcher, walk at least halfway towards home so the throw's really short, and that guy then has the ball to stop everything. We also look for that catcher that just wants to catch the ball and just flick it back to the pitcher. So just make sure if there's a pass ball, make sure the pitcher takes a few steps towards home plate and just doesn't stay real far back, because now you're talking about a really far throw, and it's easy to take an extra bag on that. So just beware of that.
Coach Megan's got a good one. She helps with her youngest son's T-ball team. I'd love to watch how to teach 4-year-olds the basics on throwing, fielding, and hitting. So Coach Megan, we have a TBall course that we offer, but we're also offering a free 7-day trial for our membership. So our membership is going to consist of everything. Our TBall course is tailored just towards T-ballers, so that is, the basics of throwing and how to grip the ball, how to hit, how to slide, all of the basics. But then I think our rookie program and our minors would also add value because there's a lot of stations and a lot of drills on, throwing competitions, whether it's tic-tac-toe or target practice or, the bow and arrow drill. We have so many drills in there. We're doing a 7-day free trial. We're going to put the link in there for you, so you can check that out. And there's so much information and so many drills that I think you can take back to the T-ball team, and it would be very helpful.
And one thing, don't forget to add some hearts. Don't forget to add some thumbs up. When you ask a question and you like what we have to say, make sure you give us some thumbs and some hearts. We love that. It gets us fired up. And if you're a coach that has a good answer to maybe another coach's question, you can also add that, and that's awesome. So the next question was one of the coaches talking about the easiest way to introduce signs, and I see Joey Bass talked about the wristband. So for those of you that don't know what the wristbands are, the wristband goes on each kid's wrist. Some of them go on their belts. That's where some of the high school kids will put them on their belts, but it has all the signs on there. So there's bunts, steals, hit and runs, all those things. And a coach will call a 5-1-2. You look on the wristband, a 5-1-2 is a steal. So everybody knows every single time exactly what that sign is. So that's one way. Another way is just going back to the regular, old school signs. You have an indicator and then you have a sign. So maybe the indicator is the hat. The hat and the belt is a bunt. So you're going through signs. Once they hit the hat, it's the next thing. I go to my belt, they know it's a bunt. A steal might be down the arm, but only after the hat. So I'm going through, I can go here, nothing's on still. Now something's getting ready to be on, boom, it's a steal. So this would be a bunt, this would be a steal. This is nothing, this is nothing. Or I can wipe everything off. So if you go like this with both hands down the leg, it can wipe off. So I could do this, but then wipe it off. Or I can go like this for a bunt, but then wipe it off. So really though, try to keep it simple. Because if you're going through stuff so fast, all of a sudden the kids are all missing signs, it doesn't do anybody good. Who cares if they know your signs? Even if the other team knows your signs, you still have to execute it and get the job done. If it's a bunt situation and you say, I want you to bunt, and he gets a good bunt down, the bunt's down. If he's got a steal sign on and you have him stealing, they still have to execute on it. So many coaches are so worried about the other coaches stealing their signs that their own kids start missing the signs because of it, and it doesn't do us any good. So whatever it is, keep it simple. You could even just do claps. 1 clap is bunt, 2 claps is steal, 3 claps is hit and run. So you're going through all these crazy signs and you're just like that, that's a bunt. You're going through all these signs, steal. So whatever it is, keep it super simple, And
to touch on Joey's comment, I see a lot of college guys use the wristband system. I think at that level, there are so many different plays that they have, right? They have 4 different pickoff moves to first base. They have timing picks. They have daylight picks at second base. They have the inside move. They have the no look quick pick. They have, I saw a lot in the College World Series, a lot of guys are doing fake steals just to open up the infield, right? So that runner on first base is taking 2 hard steps off the bag, not to steal, but just to make either that second baseman or shortstop cover. Now it opens up the infield. That player's got a big hole to hit the ball through. So I think at that level, there's so many different plays that it definitely helps, right? Because you can only put on so many different signs. They look down at their little, like the quarterback pouch they got on their belt. At that level, I'm not going to use it for the little guys. I don't think you need it at that age. There's only so many different plays you're going to run. It's going to be bunt, hit and run, steal, maybe delay steal, maybe a halfway steal, get into a pickle.
Early break.
There's not too many signs that you're going to be putting on at 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. But I think making sure that you cover it in practice, that was from Coach Dave about, introducing signs. Go over it every single week. For my team, and they're 16U, and I've had them for years, we're going to spend the first 5 minutes for the first 4 or 5 practices going over our signs, our steal, bunt, hit and run, a squeeze play, and then a lot of how to put on bunt coverages and first and third coverages. But again, like Duke said, keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate, and at that age, you don't really have to worry about hiding them from the other team. I think just about every team in the country, at that age is going to do a lot of stealing, and they're going to do a lot of bunting with first and second, nobody out. So, I don't care if the whole world knows that if it's first and second, nobody out, we're bunting. They still got to execute the bunt defense and make the play. So, like Duke said, keep it nice and simple for those guys.
Coach Ed, my 11U team lost in the semifinals this weekend. They came back from 11 down, then 6 down, then they lost an extra innings, heartbreaking loss. Yesterday we were off. How can we come back tonight and be ready for the weekend? How would you address them to focus on this weekend and to take what we learned last weekend and apply it to the weekend? Well, first things first, I think that you need to make sure that as coaches, we all need to have little tiny notebooks, and we're writing down all the little things that we did wrong throughout the game, and that's our practice plan for the following week, right? That's how we do it. Not, we have practice today, what are we going to work on? Well, instead I go right back to my note cards. Okay, we got picked off second twice. We blew a rundown, and we need fly ball communication. Okay, well, that's exactly what we're going to work on then. But I think a lot of times the kids have very short memories. They already forgot that they lost last weekend. They already forgot that there were 3 close games. But what you can use it as fuel to say, hey, we did a great job coming back last weekend. Hey, let's have a good weekend. We got some really good stuff that we're going to work on. We're going to fix some of the things that we didn't do well. Let's have a great practice. That's all. And then you have to show, though, that you are prepared with, hey, guys, remember, there were a couple things that we made some mistakes on. We're going to do some fly ball communication. You don't have to point out the kids that did it wrong. That's already gone. That's already over with. Now it's, what are we going to do? How are we going to fix it? Let's get fired up and let's get ready to take those really good comeback from behind wins and bring that right into the weekend.
Yeah. I think there's a lot to be said about your team coming back. It's showing that they're resilient. It's showing that they battled the entire game. So there's a lot of positives to go off of. But like Duke said, I'm a big fan of taking notes, keeping track of it, because in those big losses sometimes, or even big wins, it's so easy to look back on the things that happen, right? Maybe it's the walk-off double that the guy hit to win the game in the bottom of the 10th, but we forget about the diving play that the shortstop made to keep it a tie game in the top half of the inning, or maybe you forget about somebody executing a bunt properly. So I touch on, at the end of the game, I touch on the things that we did well, maybe those things that the little parts of the game that got overlooked, because everybody's going to remember those big things, right? You're going to remember maybe walking in the winning run and the whole team's hanging their head, but when you guys battled back that many runs, that's huge. There's a lot of positives to touch on, and winning or losing, you got to have a short memory. You got to come back this weekend, whether you guys won that game or lost it, and forget about it, because my team went through it. Opening weekend last year, we played 8 games in 4 days. We won the biggest championship of the summer, and then next weekend we showed up and we were flat. And I referenced it like the championship hangover. The next week we showed up, we were so dead. I think we went 1-2. We got knocked out in a consolation game, and it was like 2 hours away, and all the guys were bummed. But it just shows, you only have so many weeks throughout the summer, or for you guys this spring. So you got to make the most of it. And, there's going to be long days out there. It's going to be hot. So, keeping those kids from game to game focused on the present is challenging, but I think we have to do it as coaches. And, we have to flush it, maybe touch on it for the first minute or two of practice, go over the things you did well, the things you struggled with, and now it's in the past. Let's focus on this weekend and get ready to roll.
We got a good question here from Vincent. What are some great drills for 16U softball players? They get bored fast, trying to find ways to keep them motivated. Well, one of the things you can do is go on our Instagram page, Dominate the Diamond. There's tons of videos on there. Our Facebook page, our YouTube page. We have so many drills that can really help with baseball, softball, all ages. But I think not only in softball, but in baseball, it's sometimes it does get boring if we run the same exact practice, the same exact drills. And all you have to do is add a little bit of flavor to it sometimes, and all of a sudden you took that one drill and made it that much better. And what we do is we like to combine drills. So maybe you start out with hitting some ground balls. All of a sudden they catch it and they're throwing it to first base. Now you're having some of your teammates play first base, so you put a cone there. Now they're throwing it to first base. Now you take another cone and you put it near third base. So now the person's catching a ground ball, they're throwing it to first base, the first baseman's pretending it's a force out, they're firing it to third base, and there's a couple girls over on that side. Now they're catching and tagging. Now you add another cone. Now you hit a ground ball, they field it, they throw it to first throws it to third, and third then power flips it to another cone with another set of girls. So if you put 3 at each cone, that's 12 girls, and now they're all working on different skills, and it's really the same exact drill, but instead of just throwing it to a target, this one's throwing it to that one, they're following their throw, she's throwing it to third, she's sprinting across the field, she's then power flipping, and then you start with that. You can hit a ground ball, and you can have another coach, Coach Steve, and I love this one. I hit a ground ball, they throw it to first, and Coach Steve has a bucket right next to him, and as soon as they throw it to first, he pops one up, and they have to drop step, go get it, and drop it in the bucket. So now you're working a ground ball with a redirect, and now they're catching a fly ball. You know, so we also have races. You know, Coach Steve has a ball, I have a ball, we say go, we both slam it on the ground. The girl catches it, she throws it on the run home, they then get the ball, fire it to third, they catch and tag, and the first one to do it wins. So you're taking the same catching, fielding, throwing, and all of a sudden turning them into competitions, adding more skills in, and adding different things that they need to work on. If you need help on tagging, well, you can work on 3 different tagging drills all at the same time. And girls are just zigzagging, catch, tag, pop your feet, throw. She's catching, tagging, popping her feet. You know, you can do 6 and 6, 4 and 4. So a good way to add some spice into the practice routine is just mixing in and adding another skill to the same drill. And it makes it so much more fun. Now, I'm not talking about the entire field to where they're fielding at shortstop, throwing it all the way to first, then throwing it all the way to third. Those cones can be much closer, so it's a much shorter, more contained area to where it's happening fast. They're gonna be sweating, they're gonna be moving, they're gonna be tagging, and then you can get the stopwatch out and time them. These 4 girls, how fast can you do it? Next 4 girls, how fast can you do it? And now all of a sudden you're adding in some speed. And now those tags get dropped a little bit. They're trying to get rid of the ball too quick. So it's like you're also making it more game-like too. So, you know, that's a fun way to add some spice into practice and take the boringness out of it, because we have to work on ground balls, fly balls, and throwing. Like that's softball. But how we do it is a different story.
Definitely. Dude, Coach Eddie's got a good one. 11U players short arming their throws. Do you want to show them the connection ball drill that you do?
Oh yeah, I like this one. All right, Coach Eddie, here we go. We got a little. We love this thing right here. It's a connection ball. We'll add it at the bottom. It's at the Zone store. I think they're $15, but you can do so many things with it. You can use it for hitting. You can use it for throwing. You can use it. We do some catching drills with outfielders that oftentimes will run with their gloves up in the air. You tuck it under their arm and you run with it, and then at the last second they reach up and catch the ball. But anyway, so let's talk about some ways to eliminate the short arm. So one of the things that we do is we take the connection ball and we put it in their arm this way. So when Coach Eddie's talking about short arming, he means when they catch the ball, they're going like this. They're leading with their elbow and they're kind of like pushing the ball. This is short arming the ball. We want to make sure that they're getting into a better position and they're getting into this position so that when they throw the ball, this is happening opposed to this happening, where my elbow's leading, my arm's dragging behind it. I'm kind of like just like pushing the ball. So you can take a dodgeball, you can take a deflated basketball, but the connection ball definitely works the best. It's soft. And again, it goes almost like where your bicep is. It goes in this position. You take your thumb, it keeps it so it doesn't fall out, and they take the baseball. So they get into this position, and all they're gonna do is they're gonna take the ball and throw, but watch what happens when I throw. You see how I did that? I'm taking my arm, this is happening, and as I'm getting ready to rotate, my arm is staying solid, and I'm throwing it, and it's gonna fall out and see my finish opposed to seeing this finish. So one more time, have the connection, get the turn, boom, boom, I'm locked in. I'm gonna rotate and make my throw. So the ball's gonna go forward, the ball's gonna go this way, and that will help a ton. So it's all about getting the activation, getting the elbow here in this position, boom, 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 boom. As we're talking about arm activation, we also have a free download for your pitchers, for your throwers. So many times we get asked the question of, you know, when is too young to have our, our position players or our pitchers use armbands. So we have a free arm activation. It's 8 exercises, and you can do it with bands, you can do it with baseballs, but there's different ways to activate your arm, and it's different throwing positions and arm actions as well. So it'll really help the younger guys and gals with getting a good, proper, correct form. So it doesn't matter age or skill level. Arm activation is so important because you need all those little muscles in your arm to stay strong. That's how you throw harder. That's how you keep your arms healthy. Because there's a lot of throws that happen throughout the season, right? We were talking to a pitcher yesterday. He has over 100 innings that he threw this season, 100 innings. So, that's not how many pitches, that's how many innings. So you multiply that by 15 probably.
It's a lot.
I would imagine it all adds up. So the arm activation is awesome. It's on there. Click on that. You get all 8 exercises. You can have all your position players doing it. It's awesome, and it helps them get into a routine of what baseball and softball players should be doing. Just like they warm up and they go through a throwing program, they should go through their arm activation routine to get their body ready.
Yeah.
We
got 2 really good ones here. I'll answer Coach Pete's, and then I'll let Duke take Coach Joey's because he's got some younger kids, and I'm sure he's gone through that a bunch. But first, Coach Pete. So, best way to get a 10 or 11U player to remain confident and not crumble after a strikeout. We talk all the time about how our players are gonna, follow our lead and follow the lead of the head coach and the assistant coach. So I think we have to let them know ahead of time that it's a game of failure, and we are going to fail a heck of a lot of the time when we're up there hitting. So we have to make sure that we as coaches don't get on our kids, right? We don't allow the parents to get on the kids when they strike out, because the kid's up there and they don't want to fail. They're afraid of striking out. They're afraid of swinging and missing. They don't want to let their teammates down. They don't want to let their coaches down. So it's important that we teach them about the failures that are going to happen, whether it's a strikeout, walking a guy, giving up a home run, or in this case, striking out. So we lead by example, right? We're at the top step of the dugout, giving them a pound, pat on the butt, so what, you're going to get them next time. But we also teach their teammates to pick up their teammates. What I mean by that is, the kids can't get on one another, right? There's a kid standing at the top step of the dugout. As soon as he comes back, hey, so what, Johnny? You're going to get him next time. Right? We have a rule on my team. You're allowed to get fired up. You're allowed to get, angry and mad, but there's no throwing equipment. There's no crying. We're not going to go to the end of the dugout and sulk, right? Because that team, they need, or that player, their team needs them to get back out there on defense. All right? We can't carry an at-bat into the dugout and then onto the field for defense. So I think it's teaching them that you are going to fail. It's okay. It's part of the game. We have to flush it and move on. Coach Duke, a few years back, bought a mini toilet bowl, and it was so funny because you press the button and it sounded like a toilet bowl flushing, and anytime a kid did something like that, they'd go back into the dugout, they'd press it, it would make the sound of the toilet bowl flushing, and everybody in the dugout would start cracking up because it was funny. And I think finding ways like that to flush it and move on, teaching your assistant coaches to not get on kids when they fail, teaching the players on the team to pick one another up after an error or after a strikeout, I think are huge. But we had a coach in here not too long ago give a speech at our coaches convention, and he always said, are you focused on the 7 or are you focused on the 3? And his message was, are you going to focus on the 7 times that you get out, or are you going to focus on the 3 times that you have a quality at bat and maybe get a hit? And it's so important that we do focus on the 3, because it's so easy to focus on the 7 and the strikeouts and the errors the strikeouts and the ground outs and the outs, instead of focusing on those 3 times that you get up there and hammer something and get a base hit. Because you can be 0 for 7 with 7 strikeouts, and then hit 3 doubles in a row and you're hitting 300 and you're on the all-star team. It's just one of those sports where you're going to fail a lot, and it's just one of those life lessons that the game teaches us, and we have to do a good job as coaches instilling that into our players, that it's okay to strike out, right? But we need you, your team needs you. You got to get mad for your split second, put your hat on, get out in the field and play some defense.
Oh yeah. Joey Bass. The other day, probably the worst practice I've had with 8-year-olds. There was no effort. Kids were dragging. Execution was terrible. It's summertime and the kids are swimming all day. I want the kids to be kids, but not to waste time like you did last practice. How do you balance that? Oof, that's a good one. That's a good one. Sometimes it's like one of those days where you're just like, what the heck's it, a full moon or something? The kids are acting like a bunch of monsters out there, and we're like, what is going on? How do we reel them in? How do we get them to focus, right? And then once one does it, and then you have 2 and 3, and next thing you know, you have a whole team full of monsters going on. But it's not, I don't blame it on the swimming or, oh, there was a party last night and there was, that stuff is just going to happen. It could have been just one of those days that kids were outside, they were doing all those things, but, sometimes one kid just triggers another one and then it just goes crazy. But sometimes what happens is us as coaches, we're so locked in sometimes to doing a specific drill, or we really want to work on something, and we find that the little things just throw us off. So when a kid's goofing around and we're trying to be serious, it's like, it just seems much worse than it really is sometimes. So I think that, kids are going to be kids. Kids are going to, go swim just like we did. You probably played some of your best games when you were sick and didn't even feel good. You thought, there's no way I can have a good game. I feel like crap. I think I have the flu. And next thing you know, you go 3 for 4 and you're like, there's no reason. Maybe you're concentrated more harder. Who knows? But there's going to be days, and you don't want to be sending out text messages. Hey, I want the kids to be in by 11. Our game's at 2. Make sure they get. Who knows what? It does make it hard, and I think that there is a lot of balancing one over the other. But I think you're going to have an awesome practice next practice. I don't think there's anything wrong with when that's happening, bringing them in, stopping them real fast. I'm like, guys, we need to reset. Get a drink of water, come out here, and let's get ready to go. And almost like reset practice in a way to where you're just addressing it, you're recognizing it, you're bringing it back together, and then, start all over again. Not start all over again, but you know what I mean? Kind of resetting that, or move on to another drill. Change into, maybe you do some hitting and then you go right back to fielding again or something like that. But I think we all go through that with all ages, not just 8-year-olds. There's times when our 14-year-olds we're like, what's going on with these guys today? These guys
they had the prom the night before, they had a dance, and we all go through it. I think the one thing for keeping players focused, and we go through it in a lot of our classes here, there always seems to be that one, maybe 2 kids that are goofing off and make it tough or challenging for the rest of the guys. So I always split them up. I make sure that if I've got 2 goofballs that, they're the class clown at practice, they are separated, they're in 2 different stations, and they're on opposite sides of the field of one another to make sure that, they're not bringing the other guys down with them. You keep them moving. You don't give them an option. It's fast paced. There's not a lot of standing around, and those 2 kids that, tend to goof off a lot are going to be in separate groups and doing separate drills far away from one another.
Coach Conrad, do you guys have any body weight programs for kids getting stronger in the off season, for young kids, middle school? We have something called our sidewalk circuit that we put together that's fun, and all we did is we took chalk and we kind of made like a speed ladder out of it. So we were doing agility stuff, we were working on push-ups, sit-ups, really just body weight stuff, but simple things that are going to get kids stronger. We'll work on that with Coach Ray DeLeon, and we'll put together something that we'll put together for you that's kind of like a little workout program for younger athletes that doesn't include using weights and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, he does a lot of stuff where they are using bands and body weights and small little weights that, add a little bit of resistance, because kids all day long are picking up things and moving things and doing stuff like that. They're not going to be doing cleans and those sort of things, but there are ways to add a little bit of weight and a little bit of resistance to get them a little bit stronger.
I'll always tell my guys too, depending on the player, as we head into the off season, kids will always say, what do I have to do to get better? What are some things I struggle with? And it always seems that strength and agility, or strength and conditioning, speed and agility are always included in that. So I'll tell my guys, print out a blank calendar and put it up on your wall. And let's say, our goal is we're going to do, 30, 40 push-ups a night. We're going to do 50 squats. We're going to do jump rope. We're going to do jumping jacks, and we're going to do step ups on the stairs, and that's it. And we'll keep it nice and simple. Maybe mix in some core, but every single time they do it, they put a little check mark on there. So I use that as their accountability partner, because there's no way of really us tracking what these kids are doing at home. And I had one kid. His dad told me he was not working out, so I printed him out a calendar here at the facility, and I told him every week when he comes back for our lesson, he had to show me. And, there were some days that were blank, but he started to get into a consistent routine. And, we're talking 15 minutes at night. I think they're more than capable of dedicating 15 minutes to do some push-ups, to do some squats, some step-ups, some jump rope. And, you give them a calendar, they pin it up on their wall, and they start to see 4 or 5 days blank in a row. if they want it, they're going to get back after it, and those blank days are going to get under their skin a little bit. I know I did it when I was, training for a running program, and the last thing I wanted to do was get up and run in the morning, but also the last thing I wanted to do was leave another blank spot on the calendar. So that worked for me. It works for some of my lessons, and you can get creative with it.
Yeah.
I think, it's the same kind of things that we did working out growing up. I had no weights, so, had to get creative, kind of Rocky style.
Herschel Walker style.
Yeah.
Pull-ups, push-ups, and sit-ups. One more thing we wanted to talk about today before we have to wrap up the show, and that is the importance of coaches talking to our parents about heckling umpires and arguing calls and those sort of things. Because, again, our coaches are an extension of us, but so are the parents that are the parents of the kids that are out there are also an extension of us. So if little Johnny's pitching and, man, he's almost getting the corner and the umpire's calling it a ball, well, then all of a sudden little Johnny's parents behind home plate and that dad's like, come on, Blue, that was a strike. Let's go. Come on. The more you do that, the more calls Johnny's not going to get on the outside corner. You think about it. If you were the umpire and someone's razzing you from behind, are you going to give the kid the next one that's that same pitch, or are you not going to do it? So oftentimes, parents think they're trying to help. They think they're just having fun. Meanwhile, the pitcher's out there throwing good pitches, not getting calls, and now you see immediately his body language takes on that of the people behind home plate, right? Oh, that was a strike, and then you see the kid go like this. Or, oh man, that should have been there, and the kid's going like this. And next thing, and you're like, what's going on here? You have to call timeout. You have to go talk to the kid. You have to calm him down. Meanwhile, it's all the stuff that's happening this way and on the outside of the line. So you need to have those tough conversations, because if you don't, the parent that thinks they're doing something good is really detrimental to the team. They're not going to get the close calls. They're not, it really turns sour fast in those situations. It's a tough conversation, but I think when you listen to the rationale behind it, it makes a lot of sense. They're just not, they're just trying to get the calls, and they wish it was a strike, and meanwhile, it's doing the exact opposite, and it's not helping anybody.
I saw it last night in the Maryland Uconn game, and Uconn had a stud pitcher on the mound, throwing 93 miles an hour, dotting up the corners, and it's a tight game. Uconn's got the lead, and there were a couple questionable calls, and the pitcher's body language changed, and he went from being fired up to arms went up in the air. He's kind of questioning the umpire. There were fans right behind home plate riding the pitcher. They were at Maryland's place, and the coach from Uconn went out to talk to the umpire, and I'm not sure what it was about. They didn't really elaborate on it, but I don't think he was questioning calls. I think he was more trying to put a stop to the situation on saying, I'll take care of my pitcher. Just, maybe he's a young kid and he's getting, his emotions are getting the best of him. And then the umpire actually went out and talked to the pitcher and basically said, I'm not here to blow you up. You don't blow me up. I know that's close. It's missing a little bit. And the umpire did a great job of managing the situation and just letting the kid know, all right, you got your point across, but enough. I don't need you to put your arms up in the air, storm around the mound. Next pitch, he ended up getting the strikeout anyway, and it all ended great. But
that's awesome.
Sometimes emotions fly, and kids are angry out there. Parents get angry, but that umpire was obviously very experienced, and he did a really good job at calming down the situation and not letting his own feelings get hurt. But I think we can learn from that. I saw that situation. There's so many times where me as a coach, or really me as a player back when I was playing, I would get so fired up on questionable calls, when in reality, umpires are not going to react how you want if you're the guy on them.
I want to read one more thing, because I think this is awesome, and I think that a lot of coaches can benefit from this. So Coach Aaron says, in the middle of the season, we got a WWE Championship Belt and called it the Gritty McGritterstein Belt. The winner of the belt's the one who's the grittiest player of the day, and they get to take it home until the next game or practice. They got consideration for being a good teammate, focusing. He can award it at every game or practice. It was a pretty fun thing we got, and it really reinforces the hustle and the focus and being a good teammate.
I love that.
I think that's an awesome idea. My question to you is do they get to do the gritty on the field after they win it? Because kids love doing that. But we also did something like that, because some of those WWE belts are expensive. You know, we had gotten one that I think was $29.99, and you blow it up. And we always have something called the Turn 2 class that we have in the winter time. And the team that wins gets to hold the belt. And you know, it talks and it's crazy. They put it over their shoulder. They hold it up like this. You know, we get pictures. We put it on Instagram, and they just love it. So I think that if that's an awesome idea, Coach. Because, you know, it shouldn't always be the best performance, right? If you have a stud pitcher, stud hitter, a lot of times those kids are the ones that would really get it almost every game. But the one that's the grittiest or does something that you're like, whoa, that was awesome. That was a big play, or that was a great time. You were a great teammate. I think that just goes a long way. I think that's an awesome idea. So, you know, thanks for that.
Yeah, you see it. I think it was Texas. They had like the cowboy hat for whoever hit the home run. You know, the Blue Jays have like the big sport coat with all the Blue Jays patches all over it. Our guys last summer had the big fake gold chain with the money symbol. Anytime it was a hard barrel and the guy came in, he got to wear it. So, you know, fun things like that where, you know, it keeps the kids engaged. Yeah. It keeps them having fun, and they're kids. They're there to enjoy it and compete and develop. So I think Coach Aaron, that's awesome.
And I think, Coach Aaron, I think the same thing should happen whether they win or lose, right? So many times it's like, if you lose, nobody can talk after the game. It should be like this time of like, they're still a gritty player. They still work their butts off for 6 innings or 7 innings or 9 innings. They did their thing. Like, so oftentimes we do take the fun out of it instead of just, hey, let's play to the end. You lose a 3-2 game, but your guys played amazing. Like, give them praise. Like, yeah, we lost, but you guys played an awesome game. You're watching the College World Series right now. Like, there's only one winner, and a lot of times those games are so darn close. It comes down to the last possible play where you're leaving everything on the field and having an amazing game. It's like one little mistake or this. It's like, hey, have fun with the game, but doing stuff like that, like Coach Steve said, I mean, it goes so far, and it gets the kids engaged and focusing, and it's awesome. It teaches awesome life lessons. So thanks so much. We hope everybody had a blast today. Next week, Monday, we're back to Mondays, 11 o'clock. I know the schedule's been changing a little bit. We apologize for that. But with games and scheduling, it's making it a little more challenging for us. But we'll make sure everybody knows, everyone finds out. Make sure you leave in the comments. If you have any questions, anything that you want us to address or talk about, we add those in the emails. That fuels our Facebook posts and our Instagram posts. The drills keep on coming. So, you know, we're up to over 900 videos in our membership right now. So when you guys are asking questions, boom, they're coming out. Watch on YouTube. We're going to replay the exact live. They're all on there on our YouTube channel. So look at those. For Coach Duke, Coach Steve at Zone Sports Academy, remember to go out and dominate the day. Thanks for watching.